Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz racking up wins this weekend. Rubio won the Republican presidential caucuses in Washington, D.C., earning him 10 delegates this weekend. Ted Cruz winning most of the delegates at stake in the Republican county conventions in Wyoming, picking up 9 of 12 in the state. Take a look at the total delegate count today. Trump is in the lead with 460 delegates. Cruz in second place with 370. Rubio a distant third with 163, and Kasich far behind with 63 delegates. With over 350 delegates on the line Tuesday, will it be make or break for any of these candidates? Joining me right now is Carly Fiorina, former Hewlett-Packard CEO, a former 2016 Republican presidential candidate, and a Ted Cruz supporter. Carly, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Maria. Thank you for having me.
Carly, I want to begin on what we're watching live here. We're waiting on a rally that Donald Trump is about to lead. And, of course, we saw what happened yesterday with the violence and the protesters, one protester throwing something at Donald Trump on stage, fights breaking out. What are your thoughts on what's going on in terms of these protesters getting violent to try their hardest to take Trump out?
Well, look, these protesters are clearly an organized force. They are there specifically to try and shut down these rallies and to gain media attention. And unfortunately, they are succeeding. Look, they may not like Donald Trump or what he has to say, and they may not like Donald Trump's supporters, but Donald Trump has a right to be there, and Donald Trump's supporters have a right to be there. And these protesters are really abrogating these rally supporters' First Amendment rights. It's a shame.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, regardless of what side you're on, you know, hearing Moveonorg saying, look, Trump and Trump supporters now should be on notice, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? And, of course, this is the left wing, which is always accusing Republicans of being intolerant. This is the highest form of intolerance, and it's why people are angry. It's why they're supporting Donald Trump. Now, look, I'm no Donald Trump fan, and I think tone is set at the top of a campaign, and I don't particularly like Donald Trump's tone, which is why I'm backing Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is the only guy who can beat Donald Trump. But on the other hand, MoveOn.org, Planned Parenthood, Black Lives Matter, I mean, these are movements that really are not interested in a dialogue. They are not interested in solving problems. They're interested in shutting people down whom they don't agree with.
Right, and we're going to keep monitoring this rally where Donald Trump is expected to speak at and bring our audience any live developments that happen, obviously. Let's talk about Ted Cruz, Carly. You're supporting Ted Cruz. I guess one of the issues around Ted Cruz is he hasn't made any friends in the Senate. People are worried that he's not going to get the full-scale support that he needs to actually beat Hillary Clinton come November, Carly.
Well, first of all, Ted Cruz is the only guy who can beat Donald Trump. And the only way to beat Donald Trump is at the ballot box. All this discussion about a brokered convention is absurd. And so, honestly speaking, while they are very good men and they have run honorable campaigns, Marco Rubio needs to step aside. And even if John Kasich were to win Ohio on Tuesday, he absolutely has no path. So people need to rally around Ted Cruz. The party needs to unify behind Ted Cruz in order to beat Donald Trump fair and square. Secondly, and you know this, Maria, I've challenged the system all my life. And guess what? When you challenge the system, you do more than ruffle feathers. You make enemies. Ted Cruz has made enemies because he has challenged the system. But the system desperately needs to be challenged. In fact, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are the system. They're two sides of the same coin. Neither one of them are going to reform the system. They've benefited from the system. And the only guy who loses to Hillary Clinton right now in the polls is Donald Trump. Ted Cruz is beating Hillary Clinton in the polls. So I think the party needs to unify behind Senator Cruz now, beat Donald Trump so we can go on and beat Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of good points. But you said that the idea of a brokered convention is absurd. Why? I mean, some people who, you know, would like to see that happen are saying, look, Donald Trump is leading right now, but that's 35% of the country. That means 65% of the country doesn't want him. What's wrong with a brokered convention?
Well, then why don't people get behind Ted Cruz? By the way, the data you just laid out is absolutely right. 65 to 70% of Republicans do not want Donald Trump. So go ahead and get behind Ted Cruz so we can beat him. But imagine, think about how high passions are running. People are tired of the Republican establishment telling them what to do. The Republican establishment, frankly, has gotten it wrong on a couple candidates. I mean, they all knew who was going to be first in line and who was next, and the voters said, we're rejecting that. Because actually, actually the party hasn't done enough for us. They haven't done enough to solve the problems in our lives. So with passions running this high, can you imagine going into a convention and a bunch of people go in the back room and say, never mind all your votes, we're going to tell you who's going to be your nominee.
Yeah.
That is not going to work. So we have to beat Donald Trump at the ballot box. The only person who can beat him now is Ted Cruz. He is a conservative. We know what his principles are. So people need to rally behind him now.
And you made a lot of good points about Cruz really being able to, you know, push up against the system, and that system was like Hillary Clinton, et cetera. Let me ask you about that, though, because while on the one hand you could say, okay, Ted Cruz has principles, he sticks to his principles, that's why maybe he has had conflicts in the Senate. On the other hand, we need a unifier in the White House, right, Carly? So is he going to be the one to actually bring both sides together? In order to get legislation moving forward, in order to get things done, you need to be able to compromise.
Well, that is true. But having made a lot of deals in my life, Maria, and you and I have talked about many of those deals over the years, the only way to make a really good deal is to be clear about what your principles are. You can put a lot of things in the middle of the table and find common ground, but you have to be clear on your principles. And that's why I fear a Donald Trump as our nominee and as our president, because I don't know what his principles are. Yeah, he's apparently a good deal maker, but it's also clear he will make a deal with anyone. Yeah. And it's interesting because Dr. Carson said, well, he's two people, one in private, one in public. I don't want two people, because most important decisions that a president makes are made in private. So we better know who we're getting. And I think we're going to know who we're getting with Ted Cruz.
Well, by the way, you know, you talk about going into Tuesday, which is such an important day. You've got, you know, the primaries of Ohio and Florida and North Carolina, among others, which we are looking ahead to.
Missouri, Illinois.
Yeah, keep going. That's right. So what are you expecting out of Tuesday?
Well, look, I think Ted Cruz is going to have a good night. Obviously, Ohio and Florida are the ones that everyone's paying attention to. But I think, honestly, what's even more important on Tuesday is not whether Ted Cruz has a good night. I suspect he will. I think what's really important about Tuesday is, what do John Kasich and Marco Rubio do? Do they decide to become statesmen and step aside for the good of their party? Or do they decide to hang in based upon some, you know, dream about a brokered convention? That's what I think the real discussion should be on Tuesday night.
And any thoughts about Hillary Clinton at this point? You know, it is pretty extraordinary to watch Bernie Sanders give her this run for her money in so many parts of the country.
Yes, and in fact, it's interesting because in a way the Democrat establishment has made some of the same mistakes as the Republican establishment. You know, they sort of decided it's Hillary Clinton's turn, except that a lot of people in the Democrat Party are saying, we're not really sure we like her, and we're not really very excited about her. Look, it's amazing. We have a 74-year-old avowed socialist who's giving Hillary Clinton a run for her money. People can get all obsessed about what's going on the side of the Republican Party, but honestly, the Republican Party has fielded some great candidates, and the Democrat contest is coming down to Hillary Clinton, who we know has lied about so many things. The majority of Americans do not find her trustworthy, and an avowed socialist. It's kind of amazing.
It really is. Carly, good to talk with you as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Maria.
We appreciate it very much. Carly Fiorina joining us this morning.